Martin Luther King Jr. had some good ideas about the philosophy of education. What's the nature of education? What's the purpose of education? What are the goals? What should it do? He said in Keep Moving from This Mountain, an address at Spelman College on 10 April 1960. In this, he said, quote, "Now education has a great role to play at this point. You see, education has a twofold function. The one is utility and the other culture. Education must give an individual efficiency, but it must also humanize the individual. On the one hand, education must give us the power to concentrate, the faculty for intensive thinking. This is a basic function of education. On the other hand, education must help us to think critically. And so education helps to lift an individual from the bondage of legends and half-truths to the unfettered realm of objective analysis and creative appraisal. If an individual can't think critically, he really isn't educated. Of course, I'm sure all the Spelmanites and Morehouse men and Morris Brown and Clark and Atlanta University students and all the other people present here are educated. But I found a lot of people who have been to school who are not educated. I'm sure that does not apply to you. So many people can't think critically. Thinking critically means that the individual must think imaginatively, creatively, originally. Originality is a basic part of education. That does not mean that you think something altogether new. If that were the case, Shakespeare wasn't original, for Shakespeare depended on Plutarch and others for many of his plots. Originality does not mean thinking up something totally new in the universe, but it does mean giving new validity to old form. In a real sense, education must help an individual think intensively, critically, imaginatively. But this isn't enough. Any education that stops at this point is a dangerous education. An individual who is properly educated must have more than efficiency. The proper education will not only give the individual the power of concentration, but worthy objectives upon which to concentrate. It will give him not only critical faculty for precise judgment, but profound sympathies with which to temper the asperity of his judgment. It will not only quicken his imagination, but kindle his enthusiasm for the objects of his imagination. True education helps us, on the one hand, to know truth, but more than that, it helps us to love truth and sacrifice for it. It gives us not only knowledge, which is power, but wisdom, which is control. Unquote. I say amen. Quote, I am convinced that if we are to move forward, that if we are to face the many problems of our world, education must take on this twofold role, as it has traditionally done, and give the individual a sense of moral and ethical values along with his efficiency, so that he will go out of his college classroom knowing that there are certain moral laws in the universe, just as there are basic physical laws. For in a real sense, there is something in this universe that justifies Carlyle saying, no lie can live forever. There is something in this universe which justifies William Cullen Bryant saying, truth crushed to earth will rise again. There is something in this universe which justifies James Russell Lowell saying, truth forever on the scaffold, wrong forever on the throne, yet that scaffold sways the future, and behind the dim unknown standeth God within the shadows, keeping watch above his own. There is even something in this universe which justifies Greek mythology in talking about a goddess of Nemesis. There is something here in the structure of our universe that justifies the biblical writer in saying, you shall reap what you sow. This is a law-abiding universe, and we must move out of the mountain of moral and ethical relativism that we have been in all too long. Amen. True today, just as it was true then. But of course, Some of this is so deep and philosophical, it's true for all time. Agree on certain parts, to repeat. Quote, education helps to lift an individual from the bondage of legends and half-truths to the unfettered realm of objective analysis and creative appraisal. Amen. And as he says, education gives us not only knowledge, which is power, but wisdom, which is control. Unquote. Amen. That's what we should strive to do. If we didn't get it in our education, like to a large extent I didn't, we got to do it on our own. That's not the fault of certain teachers who people kind of want to blame a lot. It's administrators who control a school and decide what's going to go on. Some of them, not all of them again. And more than that, it's philosophical principles underlying what some people are doing. And it's philosophical principles that come from certain bad philosophers and bad intellectuals foisted on us that got in the way of us getting this good education. So we got to go do it on our own. Like he says here, we should have original thinking. We should have critical thinking. We should learn to think more imaginatively, creatively, and originally. Education is something not that we got to wait passively for, but we should do on our own. So I agree. Hopefully this helps too. See kind of what education should really be about, what we should strive to do, what we can do on our own. You know, we can take the reins of our education and our thinking and our mind and get this done, even though it wasn't done for us. And then we can help make education in the country better with some of these ideas. And it's just like he said here, quote, if we are to move forward, if we are to face the many problems of our world, education must take on this twofold role as it traditionally has done, and give the individual a sense of moral and ethical values along with his efficiency, so that he will go out of his college classroom, knowing there are certain moral laws in the universe, just as there are basic physical laws. Amen.